with the State Rep Louis Moore, who is the bill's author. Thanks for being here with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
So let's jump in with, why is this particular bill needed right now?
This bill is important because the landscape on health insurance is in a little bit of disarray. The cost of insurance has gone up a lot in the past 3, 4, 5 years. And actually every year, if you only had, even 10 years ago, if you had a 1% a month increase in your premium, you were considered to be fortunate. So that was about 12% a year. That's still a lot. Today, we're seeing increases of 30, 40, 50%, in some states 112%. So it's out of control. We want to be able to bring in competition because we only have basically one carrier in Oklahoma at this time.
Now we're talking specifically for the quote-unquote Obamacare marketplace,
yes.
the insurance pool. And there was concern, and we're hearing this from the Insurance Commission, that there may be zero insurers in that if no changes are made. Is that understanding correct?
That could be the case. I don't know that Blue Cross, who's the primary carrier, the biggest carrier, would do that, but it would be putting a lot of pressure on them, yes.
Okay, so how many people does it affect approximately?
It affects a million plus folks or so in Oklahoma. Okay. We're talking about the individual exchange folks, and that's important.
Right, so I just want to clarify for our viewers, we're not talking about the people who get their insurance through their employers,
yes,
something like that, specifically talking just about the people in the exchange.
Yes. Now a lot of them are covered right now also through, we have an option in Oklahoma called OK, or Insure Oklahoma, where 40% is paid by the individual and 60% is paid for by the state of Oklahoma. But those are in small group plans of 50 or less.
Got it.
But the individual, yes.
So bottom line for this plan is you would basically blow out the state lines and say insurers from other states can come in here and sell their product.
Yes.
And the thinking is that it's going to bring in more competition, which would drive down cost?
Absolutely. So
okay,
competition always drives costs down and improves the product that is
sure
offered.
I want to bring up this graphic here that comes to us from the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. They say it's a myth that allowing individuals to purchase insurance across state lines will give them access to coverage at lower premiums. They say the reality is it creates a race to the bottom, if you will, where people, where the companies essentially shop around to pick out the states that give them the best options to offer the least amount.
Mm-hmm. I go to the national, I've been to meetings with insurance commissioners and the National Association of Insurance Legislators, and that is not what it looks like. But a race to the bottom as far as cost, not necessarily a bad thing.
But it's because in theory that they're offering fewer things that they are covering, right?
Yes. The most any other state offers as far as mandates is 70. We offer around 40. So we're kind of in the high, upper end, middle. There are states that offer fewer mandates, so those people on the individual plan, they could decide, I don't need these type of coverages. I'll choose one with 25 mandates, which would lower the cost.
So to be clear, we're talking, I just want to make sure, I know insurance is so confusing to people, I want to make sure people understand what we're talking about. The things that your insurance would actually be required to cover, there are state required mandates, and you're saying there's a list of how many here in our state?
There's a list of 40.
40 here in our state. And if we could pull up some of the mandates that currently are here that would then become optional, if we're able to get that graphic up here, it'd be the third or fourth graphic there in the list, just so people have a sense of what some of these are. You can tell me if we're not able to. Okay, so some of them would be something like ambulance transportation, cancer treatment, diabetes treatment, emergency room services, immunizations. These would then be things that potentially would not be covered under your insurance.
Yes, but there's a lot of other ones too. There's some big ones, and one of the ones that's prevalent right now is autism coverage. Well, there's some states, California, Massachusetts, Oregon, and Washington, that have the best level of coverage. If those offered coverage in Oklahoma and somebody with autism or had dependents with autism wanted the best coverage, they would choose that. If somebody didn't have an individual, they don't have any dependents, they don't have autism, they didn't want that coverage because that would cost more, they could choose not to take it.
So how would you advise people as to which things they should get covered for and which things they couldn't? How should I know whether I would need cancer treatment now when it's something you would potentially get later?
That's a great point. Most of the coverages are going to cover cancer, so you wouldn't necessarily be able to opt out of some of those even if you wanted to. But you
But
should
you can go
have.
down the list of any of these things. You could say
Yes.
diabetes or any
Sure.
of these. Most of these you don't know you're about to
I
get
know,
them. So
I
how
know.
can you decide what to have covered and what
Well,
not?
some of those you do have to exercise good judgment, and you would want to know that, hey, I have insurance because of the unknown. You know, I'm not buying it because it's at this point that you can even get it if you had a pre-existing condition. Before, if you did have a cancer problem, you would know, hey, I can't get this coverage. I'm going to be in bad shape. If you are genetically predisposed and you know that you have people in your family that have had cancer, you probably should keep that cancer mandate in your coverage.
But the bottom line here, you're saying with this bill, it may in fact cover less, and that would be what would drive down the price?
Mandated coverage would be less. Everything else would be the same. There's many, many things that health insurance covers that's not mandated. It's directed by the physician. So if the physician said, hey, you need to have this care, it would be covered.
Sure.
Most things that people go to, 80% or more of the things they go to are cost around $2,500 or less.